Welcome to the Executive Insights Podcast. I'm Chris McNabney, Director of Solution Architecture for AWS, and I'm here with JB Brown, VP of Engineering for Smartsheet. Welcome, JB.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
JB, you are really at the intersection of two major trends. One is AI for developer productivity. The other is using AI to really change the way you interface with your customers and the impact that you're having on your customers through the investments that you're making in AI. Maybe you can just set the stage for us on, what is Smartsheet doing and how is this going to impact the way that your customers, think of Smartsheet in the future?
Being a global SaaS business where we have engineers that are working through AI in their engineering tooling and having customers around the world in the Fortune 500 provides us those two challenges at the same time. And I feel like one maybe helps solve the other. We're really focused on three key problems. One is helping our customers drive critical strategic work forward in a time when, everyone's asking for teams to do more with less. And the second is helping our customers transform their vision into an execution at a time where the pace of change is constantly increasing. And lastly, using AI as a real driver for outcomes inside of our organization and teams. We're doing this through what we call intelligent work management. Think about it as digital teammates that help you and work with you. It's a unified suite of AI agents and intelligent capabilities that helps you do more with Smartsheet faster than ever before and achieve outcomes that were not possible before. It can start projects in a fraction of the time, optimize your work, and transform your workforce, freeing up lots of time for them to now focus more on strategic projects. Of course, all of this is only possible by the Smartsheet Knowledge Graph, a flexible data model built on top of Amazon Neptune that allows us to provide flexible, personal, and contextual guidance for each user.
I want to talk a little bit about your background, and you spent some time at Nordstrom, and I think the customer centricity is really interesting when it comes to the retail sector. And maybe you can talk a little bit about how you're bringing that customer centricity to your role at Smartsheet and how you think about AI as it's impacting your customers.
Yeah, I spent a little time at Nordstrom, and if you've been in the business world or U.S. retail based, you can't go your life without hearing how famous Nordstrom is for their customer service. Yeah. When I went to Smartsheet, though, I didn't feel any drop in that. We are very customer centric, constantly listening to customers and what they want to do in order to shape how we move forward. We can't be successful in AI without driving real value, real lasting value for our customers and solving real problems. We bring that to everything, including AI.
And you talked a little bit about some of the new AI-driven features you're bringing to market.
Yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit about some of the feedback that you're hearing from your customers and some of the anecdotes too that your customers are telling you about the impact that what you've been able to deliver is having on them.
Yeah, customer feedback shapes everything we do, AI or otherwise. That's why we're always listening to them and adjusting. We need to be able to solve meaningful customer problems and deliver lasting value to them to be successful in an AI feature. For example, one of the largest global companies delivering sustainable electricity value, power, uses Smartsheet to plan massive capacity scale projects. They already move pretty fast with our data integration capabilities and workflow and automation capabilities, but they've asked us to help them understand real-time ROI analysis with AI on that project data so that they could make confident data-driven decision makings. It's that tangible need, that real customer problem that if you can solve with AI, really provides the lasting value to them. And that's what we're focused on.
Yeah. And I think, it's a combination of, delivering to the needs that the customers have, but then again, giving them the confidence that you're doing that in a way that's giving them predictable outcomes that are going to have a positive impact on their business as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I understand that a lot of the time you're the one briefing your leadership team on, what's going on with your AI roadmap. And one of the challenges I think we've seen is that it can be difficult to communicate sometimes very technical concepts to maybe non-technical users. Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the preparation that goes into those conversations and how really you approach the challenge of, making these concepts real to maybe a non-technical audience, or tying it back to the underlying business value you're trying to deliver?
Yeah, I think there's two aspects of that. One is I'm surrounded by some really great people, very intelligent people. They're using AI themselves and exploring it actively on how it can improve their work and improve their customers. So I don't have too big of a challenge in that standpoint. And then also my teammates, my more technical teammates than me, have that challenge with me as well. And they're even more deeply engrossed in AI, and they help me understand how to communicate it by the way they communicate to me. And then I think the second piece is AI is the answer for most things these days. So even in this question, AI is part of the answer. And I use AI to practice the communication and practice the story, generate narratives and generate analogies that talk about the outcomes of what you would achieve with this technology, as opposed to just the technology for technology's sake.
Yeah, I will tell you, I think I've done the same when using AI to help you tie the work that you're doing out back to the outcomes you're expecting to deliver. It's great at helping you identify use cases and really help you communicate the message to either whether a technical or non-technical audience. I think there's areas where AI can help with both.
Absolutely.
We talked about two trends, and I think one of them was on the developer productivity side. I know you've been doing some great work with Code, and I also would love to hear just about some of the productivity gains that you've seen, how that's changing the way you think about your software development lifecycle, and how it's being adopted by teams within Smartsheet.
I love this question. It's one of my favorite things to focus on these days. I think what we started with was engagement and really just activating our engineers to think about work in a new way. And that's a lot of positive influence, encouragement, setting aside time, giving them the tools like Code, Amazon Bedrock, all of our generative AI capabilities in our engineering processes, regardless of the tool run, using models on Bedrock. We then moved to giving them some measures, how actively they're using it, how many tokens are they using per day. And then once it moved past the IC part of really encouraging and activating, try to help the managers of those teams be a little bit more accountable towards creating the environment and the learning velocity in their team members, and trying to work on team level improvement in processes. So using Code months ago, even using Code against Bedrock with AWS prompt caching, we were able to reduce our average token cost by about 60%.
Oh, wow.
Just by flipping a flag that used prompt caching. The latency went down by about 20%. There's a couple different use cases that I can mention to you. One is that an engineer in a very little bit of time used Code and Bedrock to cut down the CI pipeline time of a validation pipeline by 80%.
Wow.
It was a complex problem. They probably didn't want to actually look at themselves because it's a little bit mundane, but doing it very quickly with Rue just made it really a joyous experience. These days, we're pushing further. We're pushing more into an agentic SDLC. So long-running processes of orchestrated agents that call sub-agents that have specialized tasks, tools that are specific to our environment, know how to talk to the big suite of capabilities and APIs and developer ecosystem to go coordinate that so that our engineers can focus more of their intellect on the business problem and our customers, as opposed to some of the mechanics of orchestrating those tools or doing the routine processes that we've all learned to do as engineers and put up with, but now probably don't need to. And it just takes some ingenuity and some thinking forward about how the world should be with new tools like Bedrock and Code.
It's really exciting to see the impact that these tools are having on the velocity of your development teams. Yeah. And I think sometimes just you can really see the excitement when people are feeling the impact that these tools are having. It's game changing for a lot of these teams, and I just love being able to see the real impact and excitement that from the developer teams themselves.
It's totally geeky, but I have goosebumps sometimes when I think about okay, I've lived this world of engineering and the internet for 25 years, and now it's just all new.
Yeah.
Right? You can have sort of fresh kid eyes about your work, and wow, it's just like, I don't know. I get so excited about it and what we'll be able to do for people.
Yeah, it's really been game changing, and it's all the best practices we thought existed all have to be rethought, and it's putting a lot of pressure on a lot of different parts of the team, but it's exciting. Yeah. Well, that brings us maybe to the next question, which is, as you've really scaled your engineering team, what have been some of the challenges that's created in executing at enterprise scale? And how have you tried to tackle some of these challenges?
Yeah. For context, we have offices in Bellevue, Washington, Edinburgh, Scotland, Bulgaria, Australia, Japan, in India now. And, with that diverse workforce, both time zone and cultural, and also different points of time of joining the company and having varying degrees of historical knowledge to rely on, those challenges do exist. I think using AI is a way to solve some of them. You don't necessarily need to have somebody face-to-face in order to understand a code base anymore. Smartsheet's been around for 20 years. So there's code in our ecosystem that all of our current engineers have not written or read in some places. But with AI in systems like RuCode, we are able to then read that code, so to speak, and gain understanding about it as opposed to just data and insights about it. You can interrogate your code, and understand it much better, even if you're a new engineer. So in that sense, sort of back to the previous question, I think it's fascinating to solve those problems in new ways, and understand if some of the classic problems are still there and apparent. They may not be, right? I think we're seeing that change in our world.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned a little bit about, as new developers come on the team, I think the ability for them to quickly get up to speed, deeply understand, the prior existing code base, it's again, just accelerated so quickly, and it's changing, again, the way we think about software development.
Yeah, and you can have your agents go document your code base, and then determine if that documentation can be changed in a certain way to implement a new feature, and then have a different agent go execute the diff of the document. So there's so much power. I think right now, I think the technology has advanced faster than some of our aptitudes and attitudes in some places.
Right.
And really just spending the time to keep up with the technology because they're all busy doing our work in the old way.
Yeah.
I think this is where leadership really comes into play, and making a difference in the engineer's world to give them that ecosystem to move forward.
Yeah, and give them the space and the comfort to know that we're all sort of experimenting together sometimes too.
Yeah.
You mentioned agentic workflows and how you're really starting to see the use of AI agents sort of working autonomously. But it brings up a question I think a lot of people would love to hear your answer on, which is, how much autonomy are you willing to give these agentic workflows? Where do you want to keep a human in the loop? And how are you managing risk in this rapidly with the pace of change that we're seeing?
Well, it should be a teammate. It should help you extend your capabilities and capacity and help make decision-making go faster and with more precision. It's a companion, not a competitor. And so you really want to be able to use it for what it's worth as a teammate, just like you would a sort of biological teammate. Now you have digital teammates. And when you work together as a team, you check each other, you do code reviews, right? You verify that this is what's best for the team. And I think engineers should approach it like that. We view this as the same way for our customers, and that we want Smartsheet to be a teammate for them in Smartsheet and help them do their work faster, more efficiently, with better results, so they can provide more, bigger, more impactful strategic outcomes. At some point, though, you have to have a human in the loop, verify things at different stages to manage that risk of where things might go wrong. Have the right controls in place, the right checks and balances, because ultimately we are responsible for what our computers produce, AI or not, and you have to have human accountability in the loop at some point.
Yeah, it's almost like a new skill we need, both our managers and our developers, to start thinking of that team of agents, and it's a different thought process that you have to go through, and you're not just managing a team of people maybe anymore. You're managing people along with these agents working on people's behalf. And how are you not just monitoring performance of individuals, monitoring performance of agents and maintaining, orchestrating all of the work that these new teams are performing.
Yeah. I mean, most managers know you have job descriptions, role guides in your organization. You have role guides now essentially for digital teammates and human teammates, and they have to check with each other and have checks and balances just like you would with an entire human team.
Yeah. And you also need to think about the permissions that these agents have as well.
Roles and responsibilities
and authorization. And it's exciting to see how this is being adopted within different organizations. I'd love to spend a little bit of time talking about what does the future really look like for Smartsheet? What's the next frontier that your teams are going to start investing in, and how are you really preparing your teams to meet this next frontier of challenges and the impact that you plan on having on your customers?
Yeah, I think the next frontier is building AI that earns trust. Enterprises are going to start judging AI based on transparency, governance, and delivering real business results, measured results, not novelty. Responsible AI design is going to be the new product differentiator, and that's something we're really paying attention to and focusing on at Smartsheet. As an example, next year we're launching Smart Hub. It's a centralized location to manage, control, and configure your AI capabilities on Smartsheet, allowing you to create your own agents and also provide transparency and visibility into how all of your data is used by AI at Smartsheet. That responsible design, I think, is going to be the place where companies will set themselves apart, and something that we are driving towards actively.
It's interesting. I think people are very used to working with a previous generation of tools that always provided, deterministic results. Mm-hmm. And now we're moving into this world where we're seeing some, agents providing and LLMs with non-deterministic outcomes.
That's right.
But I think what you're talking about is great, because it really is setting up a way of getting trusted outcomes from potentially non-deterministic systems. Mm-hmm. And also just being able to bring more of the user feedback as well into the system so that you can continuously improve the results.
Yeah.
So JB, I think let's close things out with one last question. If you were to sit down with another leader who's just starting their AI journey, what is that one piece of advice that you would give them to help them, maybe miss some of the stumbling blocks that you run into, or really just accelerate their path down, accelerate their AI journey?
Say lead change by doing it. That means start, right? Start for real and do it yourself and show people the value, and then create space and expectations to follow and to do the same. Show that it's safe for you to try new ways and experiment on new things, and give people the opportunity to learn and change their own mindset, change their own understanding. If you can move forward on that learning journey, create the attitude, you'll eventually get aptitude, and then you'll get competency and then proficiency. But it's got to start with just change and leading that change.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, to sort of lead from the front, lead by example, but at the same time, even being humble in the fact that when you make mistakes, sharing your own mistakes with your team can really it'll change the way that they think about taking risks, think about adopting new technology.
Yeah.
If they see you making these investments yourself and they see that it's okay to make mistakes, I think it really gives people freedom to experiment.
Yeah, that very much matches up to how we started. A few of us leaders just decided, okay, this team, you get 1 week and you're going to try and build everything with a generative coding tool. And we told them that even if they shipped nothing, we would still be successful, because we'd learned what it was good for and what it wasn't, and how we could then move to the next step. That made it safe, and they invested the whole week to learn, and it's not stopped since then. We didn't have to tell them what to do the next week. They just kept going.
That's awesome. That's a really great story, and I think a great example to end on. JB, thank you so much for being here today on the podcast. And thank you so much for being such a great customer.
Thank you. And thanks for inviting me and for being a great partner.
Thank you.